It says it's now streaming live.
Yeah.
And all right, we are starting. It says it's now streaming live. And now I'm echoing, so. All right. Okay. I thank you again for joining us, and it's so nice to virtually meet all of you, and have a great chat, and I'll be watching. I'm excited.
Hello. Well, hello to everyone out there. And you are joining me, Farrah Rochon, Vanessa Riley, and Sharina Harris, where we will talk about our latest books and friendships. So I am going to play host or moderator for the first couple of minutes, and I will start by reading our bios. Vanessa Riley writes historical fiction and historical romance in the Georgian, Regency, and Victorian eras. That is a lot of research, featuring hidden histories, dazzling multicultural communities, and strong sisterhoods. Vanessa, there you go. And Sharina Harris earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree from Georgia State University. After college, she pursued a career in digital marketing and public relations. Although her profession required writing, she decided to pursue a career in writing in 2012. Sharina's contemporary romance series under the pen name Rena Gray was named Book Riot's 100 Most Must-Read Romantic Comedies. When Sharina's not writing, she can be found with her head stuck in a book, yelling yelling for her favorite NBA teams and spending time with friends and family. Sharina resides in Atlanta with her husband and son. Visit her at sharinaharris.com. And I will awkwardly talk about myself in the third person right now. Farrah Rochon is the USA Today bestselling author of more than 35 novels, including her popular Homespreader series and her Moments in Maplesville series. The two-time Rita Award finalist is a native of South Louisiana. When she is not writing in her favorite coffee shops, she spends her time reading, cooking, traveling the world, visiting Disney World, and watching Broadway shows. And that is me. So again, thank you for joining us, and thanks to Love Sweet Arrow for hosting us. It was one of the places I was just clamoring to go to before we got locked down. So hopefully once we can all get out again, we can all make a pilgrimage to the second romance only bookstore. At least I think it's the only the two of them now. So we will be there soon, Love Sweet Arrow. Let's hope. Yeah. So we're going to start. The way this is going to work tonight, like I said, we're going to play hosting duties. Each of us are going to do the little. So I'm going to start out with a couple of questions. And I will direct the first one to Vanessa, since I read your bio first. So Vanessa, please share a little about your current release with the audience.
Well, my current release is A Duke, the Lady, and a Baby. This is a Regency, so it's set in about 1814 time period. And it's about a woman who has been deprived of her infant son and her quest to regain custody of Lionel. It's about an organization of a secret sisterhood of widows who have come together to restore the rights of women who've been defrauded in England. And it's about a hero he's a war veteran who's actually been injured, who is trying to figure out what his life means now with this injury, out of the military. How does he find value? And how does he restore the sense of purpose? And he found one as being the guardian for this infant boy. That's kind of a nutshell. Throw a little Bronte in and some spooky stuff. No, just
Okay. Sharina, please tell us about I'm Perfectly Happy.
Okay. So here you go. We're going to do the little awkward scroll across the screen. So imperfectly happy or I'm perfectly happy, P just depends on like glass half full or glass half empty. So it's about 4 friends who met in college. And back in college, 13 years ago, they formed a mastermind group, which is an accountability group to follow their dreams. And they had various dreams. Kara was interested in wine, so she wanted to be a sommelier and achieve the highest level with the Court of Masters. Nikki wanted to be a musician and a professional musician. Sienna wanted to be an attorney and eventually run for city council. And now I'm drawing a blank here. And radio personality Raina.
I was gonna say.
Raina, Sharina.
Yeah.
Raina is a radio personality who wants to be a full-time writer. So 13 years later, you know, one of them has a kid. Few of them are married. One is, you know, just, you know, living her best life or single life rather. And they just realized that they're not any closer to their dreams. They just kind of gave up on it. And they resolved to reform that mastermind group and really go after it. So it's that, you know, just piggybacking off of what Vanessa said, it's about sisterhood and friendship. And then how do you balance being, you know, these different roles, so to speak? How do you balance being a mother, a wife, or a lover, and really going for it after your dreams where, you know, societal pressures have you wanting to focus on nurturing your family. So it's a women's fiction with romantic elements. And if you're a fan of Waiting to Exhale or Insecure, I think, you know, you'll find something nice, hopefully, with this book.
Yes. And I realized that I messed up already in my duties because I forgot to mention that we are going to take questions. So if members of the audience have questions, they're posting it in the chat on YouTube or
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking.
Yes. We'll be looking. We'll try to stop and leave about 15 minutes or so to answer questions from the audience. So we'll see how this flows. And now my book.
Yes, please, because I was like, she's going to try and get out of telling us.
No. I'm trying to come up with a different way to describe it. Because I've described it so many times that it's like, I'm tired of it. No, I am not. I absolutely love this book. The Boyfriend Project is my romantic women's fiction, my first trade paperback. And it is, you know, it's funny that Sharina said, you talked about the societal pressure, because the main character in my book, Samaya Brooks, she is feeling that societal pressure to finally find a man. She's one of those type A personalities who has this checklist of everything that she's wanted. So she has the cool job. She is a software engineer for a tech company in Austin, Texas. She has the car she's always wanted. She has the high-rise condo, you know, in downtown Austin. And the only other thing on her checklist is finding a significant other, because society has said that she needs that in order to complete, you know, this society's idea of the perfect life. So she thinks that she's found this with this guy, Craig. And the book opens with Samaya getting dressed for a date with Craig, and her sister is reading this live tweet about this date from hell. And as she's reading it, Samaya realizes that this guy sounds a lot like Craig, and this date sounds like a lot, you know, like the date that he took her on. And I'm not giving spoilers because this all happens in the first chapter, but she discovers that Craig is on the date with this other girl, and then yet another girl also comes on Twitter and says that she's dating him as well. So all 3 women confront Craig, and they form this instant sisterhood, kind of like Misery Loves Company type thing. But they form it and they start what they call the Boyfriend Project, which is to actually work on projects that they have put to the side in their effort to find a boyfriend, but things that they've always wanted to do for themselves that they haven't been working on. So Samaya's is to create an app. Like I said, she's a software engineer. She has this app that she's been creating, and all is going well until she goes to work and the new hot guy at work kind of puts a wrinkle in their plans, because they're not supposed to date or anything for 6 months while they work on this project for themselves. So that is the boyfriend project in a nutshell. Oh, and I am the next question. I have the next question. So again, this whole talk is supposed to be about friendships and such. So our next question is, how does your book highlight the importance of friendships, particularly female friendships? So Sharina, why don't we start with you on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, these friends have known each other for over a decade. And what I did try to explore is like the friends that you can't lie to, that they serve as your mirror. So you can BS yourself, but they're not going to allow you to do that. So with this group and with them meeting on basically, I had a meeting on a weekly basis. It served as a that professional layer of like, hey, this is what you can do professionally, but no, okay, if you're slacking, I'm going to push you. I know you. I know your triggers. I know when you're lying to yourself. So they really served a mirror to each other. And I also explored like the smaller groups, at least what I experienced in my friendships. You may have a group of friends and you have pockets like I'm really close to this person and I'm really close to that person. So I jumbled it up where the ones that usually cling to each other, the two that usually cling to each other because they're so similar in personalities, or defend each other if the other friend is picking on them, they take off a little bit sooner in their pursuits versus the other friends. So they were kind of forced to get to know each other beyond the forced proximity of like, yeah, we've known each other for 13 or 14 years. So it's really, forcing them to explore the depths of themselves and their friendships, and like, again, serving as that mirror. So it was a really important aspect of it. And I really enjoyed it. And, some of the aspects of the friendship and the themes that I explored in the books were things that, I definitely have experienced myself in my friendship circles.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, I think it's so very nice to have these three books together. Mine is historical romance, contemporary women's fiction, and you see how important that thread of sisterhood is. In my book, you see several layers, just like in Sharina, several layers of this sisterhood. You have Jamina and Patience, who met in Bedlam. I mean, where's the best place to find your friend but the crazy house, right? But they are, because they're both in need and they're both hurting, they form a wonderful friendship that you see explored in the book, about how this person has your back, how they're, they may ask you some questions, but when all hell breaks loose, they have your back. They're going to be with you. They're going to stand with you. And there's symbolism. I use a lot of symbolism, like they lock arms at different places, at different points, and they go in together. And they're both from different backgrounds. Patience is an heiress from the colony of Demera. She's a Blackamoor woman. Jamina, well, she has amnesia, so we don't really know what she is or where she is, but they've found a kinship, and that's prevalent through the book. And then you have the overarching widow's grace that we talked about. So with the widow's grace, it's these women of all different avenues of society who've been cheated, who once again are bonded together to rescue their sisters. And so that bond is so important, and it flows down throughout the book. So no matter what level, if you were a countess, if you were a merchant's wife, whatever, they're all bound together, and they're trying to make sure everybody is restored or gets that new chapter in their life.
Yeah. For mine, the friendship between the three women, it's so important to the story. I think that's why I consider it romantic women's fiction, because I've always written romance, but I knew there was something different about this book just based on the chemistry that instantly popped off the page when I started writing those very first scenes with the three women. And it's because all three of them didn't realize that they were missing this, friendship between, three female friendships, because my main character, she has her sister who, an older sister, but she doesn't have just, girlfriends. And all three women, it's just something that they were all missing. And it's an important thread throughout the entire series. They get together every Friday for margaritas, just to hold themselves accountable and to be able to just vent about their week. They just form this bond together that, I have in my personal life with friends, including you two, and, I have these different friends, and I know how important it is to me, and that's how it is for the women in my book. They become almost like, they're most important allies, those three women, and they hold themselves accountable. It's really what the book is about. And the funny thing is, as I look at the reaction that readers have had to it, so many of them, they talk about the friendship. They're like, yes, the romance is great and it's sweet, but the friendship and that bond between the three women is what really spoke to me. So I think maybe it's something, for some reason, it's resonating with the readers who are reading this book. It's the core of the book, in my opinion. Not realizing that they didn't have these friends that they desperately needed. It's extremely important in the Boyfriend Project. So, next question. My 20 minutes are up. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. So.
I can ask the next set of questions here. Okay. So, this is something that's near and dear to everyone's heart. But releasing a book during the pandemic has been a, we'll say, unique experience. So what's been the hardest part of releasing your book during these unprecedented times? And, but have you found any pluses too?
For me, it's the hugs. So I'm one of those huggers, and I love going to reader events and hugging on readers. And, this is definitely going to change. I mean, even as, as things open up, nobody's really wanting to hug anybody right now.
Yeah.
And so that's really a negative. I'm glad we're all social distancing right now, but it's those kind of things, right? Yeah. But the positive has been, I don't think we would be doing these types of events where we could have readers, all over the world, teleport in for a few minutes of the day and spend some time with us. So I think that has really been positive.
Yeah. That for me, the positive, it's funny because one of the negatives is just that, you can't have in-person events. I know there are a bunch of readers who absolutely love to have their signed book and come and meet authors. And so not being able to do those type of events has been hard. But then the flip side is that those events are limited for people. Not everyone can travel to these events. They're cost prohibitive to a lot of authors who can't get out and do them. And now you just get people from everywhere who are able to enjoy the conversations that we've been having. So that is a positive. But one of the negatives, or at least one of the most awkward things for me, it's like the entire world is on fire. And here I am trying to sell a book. There's a meme that's been going around where it's like, the world is a dumpster fire. Hey, anybody want, a movie or whatever you're trying to sell? And that's how it feels. It's like, I know everything is crap now, but can you please buy my book? It just came out, and I worked very hard on it. It's not my fault that there's a pandemic when I'm trying to sell it. So that has been like so extremely awkward. But then I look at all of you and other authors who have had to do this, and it's like, well, everybody else is doing it, so I guess I should just continue to, do it. But that's one of those things that is kind of a negative and just kind of a icky, awkward thing with this whole pandemic. Releasing a book.
I agree.
It's weird.
Yeah, I'm like creating a Canva with my book and a cup of coffee beside it. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's fine. I feel like such a
brush
jerk.
out the bottle of whiskey next to it.
I know. Really, I think that would be like the most of unending vodka. Refill on this vodka and book. No, I totally agree with what you both have said. And for me, it's like, I had a small press before with my my contemporary romance. So this is my big girl book. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the bookstores. I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, I'm gonna sign my name and shake some hands and kiss some babies. But it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
But the plus has been for me the support that I've received in the author community. It has warmed my soul, seriously. Like authors that I deeply admire. I'm not gonna name drop because that would make me sound like a jerk. But authors that I deeply admire are like, I read this book and I'm liking it. I'm like, I'm screaming in the background. I'm muting because I'm, in corporate America, so I'm muting my, thing. My editor's like, did you see this? I'm like, yeah, I saw this. So that part has been just amazing. And I know they've reached out intentionally because they know that it's hard to debut and to release a book during this time. So that has been like the best thing ever. It really has.
It is like your debut, though. I had an event with Sajni Patel, and this was her debut book. And it's kind of how it is for you to debut, during the pandemic. It's another layer of, wow.
Yeah. Because no one knows me. It's just like, I know you don't know me like that, but buy my book. Buy my book. It is so awkward. There's no other way to put it.
This is book 23 for me, right? But this is the first single title in stores. In the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard.
It is.
At least we get to do this.
But yes, this is the plus. This is the plus too. So the next question, I'm gonna go rogue, and I'm gonna ask a question from the audience. And there was one I gotta scroll up, from Boobies and Newbies.
I love movies.
Hey, Boobies and Newbies. So question for all three of us. There's an ongoing debate about illustrated book covers. All three of your books have gorgeous covers. What made you decide to go with an illustrated cover art?
My publisher.
Real I just about to say, I was like,
I'll take my publisher for $200, Bob.
They're like, here you go. And I was like, cool.
I would really say it was the Kiss Quotient and the Wedding Date, with whatever big book came with that illustrated cover that took off. That's who put that illustrated cover, because that's how it works in publishing. Whichever book started that wave a couple of years ago. I don't know, I like them, so I hope it stays for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, when I sat down with the Kensington team, I told them, let's do something bold, let's do something different, because this is a different type of story.
Yeah.
I love my clinches, I love my, character representations, but we wanted to do something that would grab attention and just tell people this is a different type of story. And I think they were very successful in the delivery.
And historicals don't have as many. You don't really see the illustrated covers with historicals.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it kind of rom-coms, or kind of like what Sharina's book is, even books that don't necessarily, they're not really a rom-com, but they put this illustrated cover on it. It's just one of those things where It happens in publishing. It happened years ago with Chick Lit when it was Bridget Jones that did it, I think, or it was one of those that ushered in that wave of covers. And it's just, they go through these cycles. So we're just in that illustrated cover cycle. But I just saw my new cover and I want them to continue because I love the new cover. It's like I need them to
see it.
Yes. Yes.
Very cool.
Hopefully we'll get to share it eventually before the year is out. But I love it. So I need illustrated covers to stick around for
yes.
a little
Please
while.
do this, our series. Let's get
Yes, this is my series, please.
Okay, so those are my two questions. I'm gonna lob it over to you, Vanessa.
All right. So, continuing with life as a writer during the time of COVID-19, how have you had to adjust your writing and creation process? If you had it all, you might be a robot.
Okay.
Well, I say one thing. I remember when it first started and, you know, everyone was kind of freaking out because they couldn't go to work and they, you know, they had to adjust. And again, another meme, apparently my life is just in memes. It was like when you realize that your life is like being in a pandemic all the time because all you do is you haven't adjusted anything basically. You know, for the first few months, it's like, yeah, kind of sit home and write all day anyway. So I haven't really had to change anything, but it's the news. What I've had to do is try to be even more diligent in cutting myself off of news and social media because it's constantly changing. So it's been hard to detach myself, and it really has affected, you know, it's heavy stuff going on now. And I was hoping that I would be able to lose myself in my book, but in the first few months, I couldn't. It was very hard to write a rom-com, you know, really funny banter when the world was on fire. But I got to a point where I just thought to myself, okay, you have to do this. And it was just like a switch. And I started loving my book. And I'm so happy I found that sweet spot because I was afraid at first. But I think I realized that it was just the way I was interpreting it. I didn't even change all that much. It's just that mentally I was not, you know, the news and all of that stuff was affecting how I was interpreting my own book.
Yes, fair.
And I think now maybe because it's not good that we've plateaued where we are, but it's like we kind of know what we're doing now a little bit. And we know that, you know, if we wear a mask and do all of this stuff, maybe we can get lower and this is how life will be. There was just so much up and down at first and we just didn't know. I think because we know more, I'm not as anxious about it and I'm back to my normal writing.
Yes.
Creative process. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I've gone up and down to in waves. When it first started, it was very hard for me personally because I work in the hospitality industry, my day job, so marketing for hospitality. And we had some furloughs and then we had massive layoffs. So a lot of people I've been working with for, 7 or 8 years were let go. So that, and some of my team members, were let go. So that was really hard to adjust to. And then also having a 2-year-old and trying to work and, having that mom guilt, that parent guilt of like, my husband and I were just passing them off between meetings. So that was really hard to do, but we got into a rhythm. We figured it out. And then, so I, became more productive. Even when this first happened, my book Judge's Girls, the copy edits were due. So I had to suck it up and unfortunately just push through it. I'm glad it was copy edits and not developmental edits. That would have been tougher for me. So as far as adjusting my writing process, I think it all averages out. So I'll have 3 really productive weeks where I'm just knocking it out the park, and I'll have really one bad week where I'm just not I'm not as productive. So I take myself as I come. I give myself grace. I know it'll all work out. I don't try to suppress how I feel. I just let it, work through those feelings and those emotions, because if I try to suppress it, it's just gonna extend the
Yeah.
bad feelings that I have.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I was writing a book. So my life didn't really change because I wasn't leaving my computer. I slept at my computer. I did what I had to do to the computer. It did heighten my paranoia because I was like, if I go outside, I could get it. And then I won't finish this book and it won't be on time. So I'm going to stay in the house, right? So if you are
Yeah.
slightly paranoid, which a lot of writers are, it probably, made you a little bit more anxious. It's been harder now, right? The in between books, or as I'm getting back edits and things like that, to maintain focus, as well as trying to. Normally, I think I'm a very good juggler, right? But
Yeah.
between release and writing and edits, I will obsess on one versus the other, and so trying to find balance is a really difficult thing. But not as bad as my husband. That boy can't sit still. He got to go out. I'm like, don't go. Don't,
At least don't bring it back here.
spray you with Lysol. You come back in this house, right? Now, at the beginning, we talked about the importance of sisterhood, the pressures that society is focusing on. You got to have a boyfriend. You got to have that significant other to be whole. You've got Sharina with your book. You've got women who feel like they've missed out on something and now trying to refocus. So my question is, romance is actually a subversive literature because it is where women are empowered to gain a happy ever after. We're taking charge, we're gaining a happy ever after. So how do you portray the women in your book to kind of rail against the patriarchy, go against the status quo? How do you do that?
All right. Farrah, you want to go? You want me to? Yeah.
I can quickly answer this one because it's kind of what the book is all about. Samaya is kicking butt in a very male-dominated industry. She's in the tech industry, one of very few women, even fewer Black women. And she's been at her job for just a few years and has worked her way up. And she definitely explores, this in the book, what it means to be judged in her job as the only Black female there. And just what it means to be able to work in this job, be successful in this job, and just own that. And that's one of I intentionally made her that type of character who will not apologize for being what she is. She embraces it. And yeah, that's what it was all about. Because I worked in the tech industry and I saw how few women were in it and how few Black women, I didn't see any. For 3 years, I did not see a single Black woman who worked even in like sales or things like that, not even as an engineer, but just in any aspect, even though I knew they were there. So it was very intentional addressing the patriarchy and making sure that my character just smashed all of those glass ceilings. Because she was kicking in her job, her job was, she was doing it. So yeah, I wanted to show that.
Yes. Snaps. Yes. I used to be in the tech industry too. And it's just like, it's exhausting. So I was, really connected to that in your book for sure. For Imperfectly Happy, my themes were self-care. I think some people are saying like selfish self-care. I lean towards self-care, and because I really and truly believe is that you cannot pour into someone else if you're empty. And I've seen it with my friends. I've seen it, even in my family, of people who chose the path of being the nurturing woman. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to, do sacrifice. Even if you don't have a kid, as a woman, you're expected to be the one to take care of your elderly parents, to sacrifice, to do all of those things. So there's a lot of expectations. And so I really, I tried to be very intentional about, we're going to take a step. We've done what was expected of us, what's been forced down, what's been force fed to us over the years through media, through, unfortunately, our own families. Whether well-meaning, right? Very well-meaning. And what can I do to fulfill myself? And what I hope that readers will get out of this is, like, once you're fulfilled, and life is a journey. Happiness is a journey for sure. It's something you work at every day. But that's the step in the right direction that you need to take, right? Because otherwise that dream deferred, it becomes bitter because of raising the sun, So just really focus on yourself, and then everything else will, flow a little bit better. So yeah, just taking that whole, I got to be this nurturer, I got to be the person that carries the bag lady, is what I say all the time for Erykah Badu's, the one that carries, the load of the family. Like, nah, screw that. Throw that baggage off, focus on yourself, give them the tools to figure it out themselves. Their kids, sure, yeah, got to help them out, right? I'm not going to tell my 2-year-old to figure it out, but I am going to take care of myself so I can be a better mother.
Yeah. One of the things I loved about both of your books is that you don't make the women feel guilty, or at least at the end, it's okay to be successful. It's okay to focus on your own goals. And I think as women, that is so often taboo. It's everything else. And then we're the last on the plate. When you don't have the energy, you're empty. And so you can't manifest the things you're trying to do. In A Duke, the Lady, and the Baby, we're railing right at the patriarchy. I mean, I'm big on symbolism. So breastfeeding, right? Not your typical romance, right? But women, breaking into places to get information, to do what they need to do in order to present their case so that they can take back their power. So I think that's extremely important. And it's just, I think these three books kind of just go very well together of looking at empowering women against expectations or the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do like the fact that they do all get what they, it's okay to have it all. It's okay to show someone having it all.
Yes.
I think we need to normalize that more, because you don't necessarily have to sacrifice, in the end, or suffer. A person they can find happiness without having to lose something of themselves in order to get it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We did well with that. Go up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not I see great conversation. I may be missing it, but if you have a question, definitely pop it in here. But I'm just gonna ask another question to keep it going, unless you ladies object.
No.
All right, great. What type of research did you have to do for this book, and how long did it take?
You want to go first, Vanessa, or do you want?
I'm going to say lots of research. Can y'all see these books back here? Whenever you do a historical piece or a particular, like a centered in a country or whatnot, you've got to think about the vernacular, dialect, clothing, food, there are choices you have to make. And then in my case, because we're talking about the laws, I have to understand the Chancery Court, where family court issue kind of things that are going on. You gotta get all of that into my world. And then the second thing is, because I focus on people of color, blackamoors, I have to bring that history, because that's the history that's little is known about. Yeah. There's a lot of material out there, but it's not that well known. It's just, if I love Pride and Prejudice. That's one of my favorites. Yes, Jen Reed's, if you're watching, yes, it's one of my favorites.
I love it too.
But there's a scene where Darcy is walking through London and he's got his lantern and he's looking for Wickham. You should have seen people of color on that street.
Yeah.
They're actually everywhere. They're between 10 and 20,000, but in that one scene, you should have seen people of color. And so that whitewashing or absence of diverse peoples that lived in London during that time, it needs to be eradicated. It needs to, all these other stories need to be told. And I'm not saying get rid of the other stories. No, I love the Regency stories, but I'm saying make a seat at the table to add these other stories to the pot. So I answer your question, lots of research in order to bring that to you in an authentic way so that you can get the flavor of the people.
That means that there should be a whole bunch more, because you have to do something with all that research that you've done. So there should be so many more books coming our way, which is really good. Yeah. I had to do a lot of research for this book because I worked in the tech industry about 10 years ago. And when I decided to set the book, it kind of happened at the same time that I decided to make Samaya a software engineer and set the book in Austin. They kind of just went together. But I realized that so much of the technology has changed in that time. So I researched so much about like the company. I'm not going to give a lot away, but there's something nefarious happening at the company where she works. So I had to do a lot of research, not only about the tech with that, but also Daniel is not quite what he seems at the beginning of the book. You learn that he's something just a little different. That required so much research because he actually works for something that is not really well known by the American public. It's a part of our government that's not really well known. And also just with Samaya's app, I think I could build an app now if I wanted to, because I had to do so much research, even though it didn't get that much, face time in the book. I had to know what I was talking about, the little that I did mention. So it just required massive research to make sure that I was, again, being authentic, using the kind of language that tech people would use. It would be nothing for two software engineers to talk about all this coding language that I had no idea what it was. And I had to make sure that it was relevant and still in use, and, old school ones that Daniel really wanted to, like, he was excited he got to play around with it because he hadn't used it in years. I'm like, so what is old school coding language? It's a different type of language altogether. So, and I'm like, so not a tech person. So why I would do this to myself, I don't know, but I did. And I did a lot of tech research and stuff for it. So yeah, it required a lot of research throughout for the entire book, but it was worth it for me. Definitely.
And it shows. As a tech girl, yes, you did great. And you probably could build that out.
That's true. You're a tech girl. You know, so good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So Sharina, is Sharina still with us? No.
Sharina is disappeared.
Sharina left us. I saw she like froze for a minute.
She froze for a minute.
And now you're back.
This is the con for the pandemic.
Definitely.
I was like, and it stopped on like Farrah's doing this. I was like, oh crap. Crap.
You are back.
We're back. Yeah, I think. Oh, that threw me off. Research, right? We're talking about research.
Research. Had to do.
I need to research a better internet connection. Just sorry, Farrah. Did you? Finish?
I was done.
I apologize.
No.
You looked like you were glued in place. answer.
Yeah.
For me to realize you were just really into what I was saying. It was blanked. So
I'm good. Hopefully it wasn't like me looking.
No.
Sometimes I have like RBF and I'm like, no, I'm really nice. Okay, so the research part for me, all of my ladies had different various backgrounds and careers. So I would say the most fun was the sommelier, and I had a lot of excuses to just try different wines. Like, and I'm over here like, has a chalky taste. I don't know what I was talking about. No, but I did. I listened. I listened to podcasts, documentaries. I went to Napa. That was, mostly for fun, but it did help in my research, right? And then for my attorney, my mother's an attorney, so I get to bother her. And for my, for radio personality, I know people in, communications and things of that nature. And, I am a writer, so, that helped out a lot. And a musician, I'm not a musician, but I did, music band from like 10 to 21. So saxophone player, first chair. Yeah, little known fact. So there's things that I knew, and then I also have friends who are pursued it professionally. So I had a lot of great primary sources, and then the internet is awesome. The internet is undefeated. So
yeah.
I had all of those lovely tools to help. And we do have some questions in the chat if it's okay to. I'm like,
We've got about 2 minutes, so I think we
have
can.
okay, all right. All right, Danielle Jackson. Question for the authors. Oh, hey Danielle. We're Twitter friends, I think. Sharina brought up self-care. What have you all done to practice self-care during the pandemic?
I treat myself way too well.
You're right. I indulge a lot.
I am the queen of, at this point, it's like, I don't even need a pandemic to do it. I just indulge. I have taken, I've taken a liking to a glass of wine and dark chocolate every night. That used to be like a treat. It's become
It's good for your heart. It's good for your heart. That's self-care.
It's become a thing. BME, is that how you say that wine out of California? It's just wonderful with some dark chocolate, and yeah. So self-care for me is stuff like that. I just redid my shower in the process of doing it. Because yeah, I like to treat myself to, like, house improvement stuff. So that's my self-care during the pandemic.
Yes, treat
I
yourself.
deserve it. I want a spa shower, so that's what I'm doing right now. That's my self-care. That's what I'm telling myself.
That's good.
Something different.
For me, it's bulk orders of Starbucks. So I bulk order at the beginning of the week. So I have 7 cups of hazelnut grande lattes. I've perfected a recipe so that I know how to warm them back up from the refrigerator. So it's like, that's made the entire difference for me. And in baking. So I make these little brownie bites, and they're like candy bars, but slightly healthy.
Vanessa, leave some at the door for me.
I will.
I live around the corner from Vanessa.
Yes.
These
I'm not even healthy because I saw him on Instagram. I'm like, oh.
Yes. I did realize you can put too much caramel in it. You can. I had to back it up a little bit.
Oh.
Now I got the recipe.
Oh,
right.
It was amazing. I admired the last set you posted to Instagram.
Vanessa is amazing. Baker, cook, everything. I've been to her holiday parties and also some writers' workshops, and it's like my favorite thing. So that's why I said leave some at the door.
We want to do that. We've done a diaper drop. I mean,
yeah, we have. Yeah, I have. I was complaining that I couldn't find diapers in my or wipes in my area at the beginning of the pandemic. She's like, "Girl, I got you." So she ordered me some, and then I just came by and dropped it. Literally, we live like 3 or 4 minutes away from each other.
literally.
I feel so like 8 hours away. I feel so alone now.
I mean, we hadn't seen each other. Like I came to her stoop.
Nobody was getting in.
No, she didn't open that door. I wasn't getting in. I didn't ask to get in either.
That was early on in the pandemic. Was like, everybody got it.
Yeah, she probably wiped Clorox wiped down that step that I. For self-care for me, I have been watching more shows and movies, because before it was just work, hang out with family, write, go to sleep. So I have indulged, and I'm really into like K-dramas, like.
Oh gosh, another K-drama person.
Yeah, it's happened between my critique partner Pamela and like the divas, a couple of the divas. They converted me. Oh, so good. It's so like heart-wrenching, and it's just like the emotional release.
Dang it.
That I'm sorry, they got me. Like, and I'm a boy band fan now again. So watching something not related to that. I watch the Hollywood Reporter, like the actors on Actors Roundtable. That's been my jam. I love it. I just love seeing the interviews. So yeah, between that and podcast. So that's been like, it really it energizes me just to hear. It's also directors too, just to hear like their point of view for storytelling. So
I can see that.
So that's been a lot of fun.
Okay.
Do we have time for another question?
We should have time for one or two more.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So much pressure.
Thanks for asking questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Ooh, okay. From Alexis Daria. How do you figure out your female character's growth arc?
Ooh. She's a ringer. Why don't we take this question from her? No.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
Also, I have your book on my Kindle, and that's gonna be my self-care tonight.
Yes.
I'm ready. That's a beautiful cover. Talk about a beautiful cover. I wish. We need to.
For me, I always believe everyone carries around a lie that they've been told since they were young. And so I settle on what is the lie. Is the lie that you're not smart enough? The lie that you can't do it by yourself? There's some lie that you've internalized. And so the big growth arc comes from not this, there's always, we think about the goals, we think about motivation, we think about the relationship status, but that lie, the healing of that lie, that's going to decide how big the arc is for my heroine. The bigger the lie, the bigger the arc.
I don't go with the lie, although you can kind of see it as a lie. I guess you can. I go with the universal, like what's missing in them, that universal need that needs to be filled. So that's where I start with my character. Because it used to be, we all know goal, motivation, and conflict. But it's like, no, there has to be something more. It has to be deeper than that. So it's like I have this whole list of just universal needs that all humans, need. And sometimes it's just connection to community or family, security, forgiveness, these big ideas. And I try to find which one of those things my character is lacking. And that's what I build on. So that's that thing that's deeper than just a goal or motivation, them trying to find that. So yeah, that's where it is for me.
It's the same as Farrah, the universal need, and then the universal, and then the overarching theme. And then so for the 4, it was a little challenging for me to do like the 4 characters and just doing that 4 times, and then how does it all blend together? So that's why I had to have that theme, that universal theme for the book. really nailed down. The characters came to me first, but just making sure that worked within that theme of the book.
Gotcha. So we have just a few more minutes, and I think we should end it with talking about what is next. Yes. So we know Sharina just revealed her new cover for Judge's Girl, so I think let us know what, she actually has a physical book that she can share with people. It's coming soon. So
oh, you know what? Sorry, I'm gonna slide over for a second because I want to. 1 second.
Well, Farrah, why don't we tell you while she does that? What's coming next for you?
She's there. See, she's there.
She's back. Oh, that was
I'm back. Yeah. Hopefully, you guys didn't see the party, the yoga pants. But yeah, here we go. I know. Here we go. So Judge's Girls here. Nice. So that it's releasing October the 27th. So it's the universal theme is about it's about family. So it's set in the South, and basically the patriarch of the family, who's a county judge, he dies, and he has a wife. He has an adult daughter who's an attorney, and he wills the house to her with the stipulation that her stepmother, who was his younger wife secretary, about 15 years younger, is allowed to stay there as long as she wants, as long as she lives. And they do not get along. So it has themes of like racial tension and themes of family, your chosen family as well. The themes of the myth of the strong Black woman and the expectations of that as well, which is near and dear to my heart. The main character, Maya, navigating through, kind of similar to Farrah, because when I was reading your book, I'm like, yes, exactly. So navigating corporate America, code switching, wearing the mask, wearing different masks, and Jeannie, who is the wife, her coping with the death of her, the love of her life, and the weaponization of her tears, and how that's impacted her stepdaughter, and how her husband, Maya's father, has treated the differences in treating their emotions. So it's a little deep, but there's some romantic elements there. I promise you. I'm always going to do a happy ever after. So it was a lot of fun. It's 3 POVs, points of view. And it'll be out October the 27th. So I'm really excited about it. Really, really excited about it. And hopefully it lands really well in the market. So yeah, Judge's Girls.
I can't wait.
Thank you.
For me, my next book is the next book in the series. It's called The Dating Playbook, and it features Taylor, who is my fitness guru, or who's trying to become a fitness guru. She wants to be an Instagram influencer, and everything she's tried is, fell short for her. She was hoping that the going viral in the first book was going to be the thing to put her on the map, but it didn't. But this time she has found an ex-NFL player, Jamar Dixon, and he has hired her to be his personal trainer. And she thinks that, he's going to get all his footballer buddies to hire her, and she's finally going to be able to build Tailored Conditioning, her company, or her little business. But then she finds out that Jamar doesn't want anyone to know that he is working with a fitness trainer, because in case it doesn't work out, he doesn't want the ridicule of being this washed up NFL player who tried to make a comeback and couldn't. So the one thing that Taylor really was hoping she would get from, working with Jamar is the one thing that he does not allow her to have. So that is the gist of, the premise of the Dating Playbook. Well, and it's also, okay, that's all I'm going to say. There is a fake dating element. That's actually the thing. That's how they, it comes out that they are working together. So she just tells people that, oh no, we're dating. We're actually dating. So then they have to play off this. So that's where the dating playbook comes. I really need to hone my, it's like, wait, the whole book is about them fake dating. So no, you just gave the premise. Where's the fake dating part, Farrah? That's the whole thing about the book. So yeah, it's a fake dating thing too. So I'll get better at that later. Still writing it. So Vanessa, yours.
I have 2 releases coming out next year. So the first one is Island Queen. This is my first historical fiction. Dorothy Kerwin Thomas is a name that should have never been wiped off the face of the earth. She is a remarkable woman who brought herself out of slavery, bought her freedom, bought the freedom of all of her family members, and went on to become one of the wealthiest women in the West Indies. Phenomenal life. There are several romance stories in this life. I'm focused on 60 years of her 90-year life. And during that time frame, the average Black person lived 30 years. So she literally has like 3 lifetimes that she lived. But she has an affair with Prince William Henry, who's the future King William IV. She has an affair with some very interesting men, baby daddy, baby daddy, baby daddy. And then she ends up the colony of Demerara, where she spends most of her life. They are afraid of these Black women who've gained economic power, and they want to tax them for all of the slave rebellions. And what they're systematically doing is using the laws to defraud these women so they can basically, in a couple of generations, all that money is going to come back into the white colony. She gets mad and she goes to England, and she literally gets a meeting with the colonial secretary, like the Department of Defense. She just rolls up, gets a meeting because she's so impressive. They thought she was a queen coming from one of the colonies. And she's able to convince them to take away this law. So you guys are going to see her life, and I think it's going to be change a lot of minds in the history books of this particular time period. Now, I'm also working on book 2 in our wonderful series, and an Earl, the girl, and a toddler. The funny thing happens when you turn in a book and then you get it back a couple months later, and you got Black Lives Matters happen and all these sorts of different things. So my story has gotten, I think, a lot better. This story you will see the first Black Earl probably portrayed, and you're going to get to see stuff happen and things happening, and it's going to be exciting. And then it's my first amnesia story. I always wanted to do an amnesia story. So we got all that in an Earl, the girl, and a toddler. That'll be coming.
I love it.
I know. Yeah. I love the title. And a toddler. God bless him with that toddler too.
So we are like a few minutes over, but I don't think it's a problem. I hope I'm speaking on behalf of Love Sweet Arrow, like I know. Because if I ever wanted to go over time, it would be with these 2 here. So thank you all, everybody out there. I can't see you out there because I forgot to put on YouTube to watch it at the same time. But thanks to all who joined us tonight, and Vanessa and Sharina. Thank you all too for being here. And of course to Love Sweet Arrow for supporting us. I'm pretty sure that I know that you can purchase all of our books or any other book from Love Sweet Arrow. Please support indie bookstores, especially indie bookstores that support the romance community. So thank you all for spending some of your Friday evening with us.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to get to know you through the chat. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.